Good day everybody. Good day sir. My name is Jimwell Deramas from BIT2K ATB. At ang topic po natin ngayon sa video ito ay ang camshaft, crankshaft, position sensor. At pag-uusapan po natin ang kanyang purpose, operation, at ang kanyang construction. First of all, what is camshaft position sensor? A camshaft position sensor is found in every modern automobile. This sensor is an essential component of any car since it ensures that the engine is operating correctly. When looking under the hood of your car, you can have problems finding the sensor. Typically, each car manufacturer will have its unique location for putting the sensor near the engine. It can be found behind the cylinder head, in the vehicle's lifter valley, or adjacent of the engine block. A camshaft position sensor's job is to figure out where the camshaft is with the crankshaft. The camshaft position sensor keeps track of the camshaft's rotation, focusing on when valves open and close. Purpose of camshaft position sensor: to determine which cylinder is on its power stroke. A camshaft position (CMP) sensor is used by the car's computer to monitor the rotating position of the camshaft relative to the crankshaft position. This information will be used to alter the spark timing and fuel injector operation. The cam, the cam sensor, also known as the camshaft position sensor, is responsible for informing the ECM of the camshaft position. The crank and cam sensors are in time with one another. In a sequential system, the cam sensor is typically employed to determine which injector to fire and for the COP or coil on plug ignition system coil firing event. The, cams- the camshaft position sensor collects and communicates data on the vehicle's camshaft speed to the engine control module (ECM). This information is used by the ECM to determine the ignition timing as well as the timing of the fuel injection required by the engine. Next is the operation of camshaft position sensor to determine which cylinder is in its power stroke. While the car's computer, for example, monitors the rotating position of the camshaft which is relative to the crankshaft position using a camshaft spoon position CMP sensor. It will use this information to adjust the spark timing and the operation of the fuel injectors. The cam sensor or camshaft position sensor's role is to signal the ECM camshaft position. The crank and cam sensors operates in sync with each other. The cam sensor is frequently used in determining which injector to fire in a sequential system and for the COP or coil in plug ignition system to coil firing event. The working of a camshaft position sensor is less complex and can be easily understood. As earlier stated, the ECU in a sequential fuel injection system must decide which cylinder to ignite next. The cylinder identification sensor provides this information. Whenever the first cylinder is at the top dead center during engine rotation, the sensor transmits a signal to onboard controller or TDC. Construction of camshaft position sensor. In accordance to its production design, these are three different types of sensors. Inductive. The induction phase sensor may be located inside the distributor or on the camshaft. Therefore, near the camshaft, a device with permanent magnet is mounted. Every time the magnet passes through the sensor, its magnetic field is changed and the resulting pulse is sent to the onboard controller for processing. Hall effect. Hall effect sensor may be located inside the distributor or on the camshaft. Screen with a slot and magnet is mounted on the shaft. When the screen goes between the magnet and the Hall sensor, Sensor is turned on and off, while a slot in front of the sensor. A voltage returns to amplifier through a third signal cable. As long as in front of the sensor is a solid sector of the screen, the feedback voltage is interrupted because of the magnetic field is deviated. AC output. AC output sensor is different from the others is that the output is an AC voltage signal. The onboard controller generates very high frequency between 150 and 2500 cycles per second to the exciter coil, which is located near the rotating disc. This this is mounted at the end of the camshaft and there is a slot in it. When the slot passes the coil, it is excited by the mutual inductance and a signal indicating the position of the first cylinder is sent to the onboard controller. This type of sensor is used in some Vauxhall Ecotec engines. We are down to crankshaft position sensor. First of all, what is crankshaft position sensor? Crankshaft sensors are electronic devices that monitor the position or rotational speed of the crankshaft in internal combustion engines, both gasoline and diesel. Engine management system employ this data to adjust the timing of the fuel injection and other engine characteristics. The distributor had to be manually set to a timing mark on petrol engines until electronic crank sensors were available. The crank sensors can be used in conjunction with camshaft position sensors to monitor the engine's piston valve relationship, which is specifically significant in engines with variable valve timing. This procedure is also used to synchronize a four-stroke engine with its first starts, allowing the management system to determine when to inject gasoline. It is also widely used to determine engine speed and revolutions per minute. The main crank pulley, the flywheel, the crankshaft itself are all common attachment points. Together with the camshaft position sensor is one of the two most critical sensors in modern engines. Purpose of crankshaft position sensor. The crankshaft position sensor's primary function is to determine the crank's position and or rotational speed, RPM. The information sent by the sensor used by the engine adjusts units to control factors such as ignition timing and fuel injection timing. In diesel engines, the sensor will control the fuel injection. The sensor output may also be linked to other sensor data, such as the composition to determine the current combustion cycle, which is critical for a four-stroke engine's beginning. Let's get down to the operation of crankshaft position sensor. The working crankshaft position sensor is less complex and can be easily understood. In its working, the teeth on the reluctor ring attached to the crankshaft pass near to the sensor tip on the crankshaft position sensor. One or more teeth are missing from the reluctor ring, which it serves as si- sig- reference point for the engine computer or PCM. The sensor generates a pulse voltage signal when the crankshaft spins, with each pulse corresponding to a tooth on the reluctor ring. With the engine idling, the photo below the photo below displays the actual signals from the crankshaft position sensor. As you can see from the graph, the reluctor ring in its umbilical has two missing teeth. The PCM uses the signal from the camshaft position sensor to determine when which cylinder to fire the spark. The signal from the crankshaft position, which is also utilized to check for misfires in the cylinders. There will be no spark and the fuel injectors will not operate if the sensor's signal is missing. Next is the construction of crankshaft position sensor. Inductive. Same as the camshaft, sir. It also has three types, the inductive, Hall effects, and the AC outputs. Inductive. In this type of crankshaft position sensor, a magnet is used to detect a signal from the engine cranking. either in the engine block, close to the flywheel, or close to the crankshaft itself. Notches on the spinning disc, reluctor wheel, or crankshaft are picked up by it. The magnetic field changes as each notch passes, sending an alternating current signal to the ECU. Hall effects. This type is similar to the inductive sensors, in that is positioned in the same location and responds to the same notches. It creates a digital signal instead of an analog AC signal. As the notches travel by the sensor, it turns on or off. AC output sensor. The output of an AC sensor differs from that the sensors in that it is an AC voltage signal. The exciter coil, which is placed near the rotating disc, receives a very high frequency between 150 and 2500 cycles per second from the onboard controller. The disc is slot in it and attached at the end of the camshaft. The, the mutual inductance excites, excites the slot as it goes through the coil, and a signal specifying the position of the first cylinders is sent to the onboard controller. Some Vauxhall Ecotech engines employ this type of sensor. That's it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to my video. I hope you learned something new about crankshaft and camshaft position sensor.